Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Good evening. It's Friday, February 18th. Thanks for joining us. I'm Amitha Sharma, in for Maya Trabulsi. The latest round in the fight against gun violence played out right here in San Diego today. Governor Newsom announcing new legislation to let private citizens sue gun dealers and gun makers. And that's not all the governor was taking aim at. Here's KPBS reporter Kitty Alvarado.
Governor Gavin Newsom, state and local leaders gathered at the Del Mar Fairgrounds to announce several pieces of gun legislation that are part of a larger public safety plan.
I have, this is personal, no issue with guns or gun owners. None. I have serious issues with gun violence.
He says he plans to sign a proposed bill modeled after the Texas abortion ban that was upheld by the U.S. Supreme Court. It would allow private citizens to sue gun makers and distributors.
We're going to start playing by their rules now and not continue to be on the defense.
State Senator Robert Hertzberg of Van Nuys proposed the bill.
What is good for the goose is good for the gander. I look forward to rushing a new bill to the governor's desk to take advantage of that United States Supreme Court guidance.
If Texas can use a law to ban a woman's right to choose and to put her health at risk, we will use that same law to save lives.
Part of the package is a bill banning manufacturers from marketing certain weapons to children.
Modeled after a weapon of war, an AR-15, that took the lives of 20 precious first graders and 6 adults at Sandy Hook, and to promote it with a skull and bone and a pacifier. How the hell do they think that's okay?
And the package also includes a bill that would remove the gun industry's exemption from consumer protection laws that currently keep them from being sued.
I'm not naive. They're going to take this video and they're going to say we're just victims. Well, we're all victims of their greed, of their avarice, of their extremism.
Sandy and Lonnie Phillips say they support the legislation. Their 24-year-old daughter, Jessie, was one of a dozen people killed in a mass shooting at a movie theater in Aurora, Colorado. They say they lost everything trying to sue the gun dealer that sold thousands of dollars of ammunition to the shooter. The judge forced them to pay for the gun dealer's legal fees.
To see her life cut short just because somebody had easy access to a gun and easy access to ammunition.
The laws need to be strengthened so we can't have a 17-year-old going in that already has a history of mental problems and buy a weapon without being flagged.
We reached out to WeOne, the gun manufacturer accused of marketing to children, and to local Second Amendment rights activists. We did not hear back, but they previously told us they will continue to sue to stop these laws, saying they don't stop criminals, but only punish legal gun owners. Kitty Alvarado, KPBS News.
California is officially in the next phase of the pandemic. Endemic is a recognition the virus is not going away anytime soon. KPBS reporter Matt Hoffman has local reaction to the plan.
Want to sit here? Sure. Perfect. Come on, we'll take care of you. At Guava Beach Bar and Grill in Mission Beach, owner Eric Christensen says he's cautiously optimistic about the governor's endemic plan. I'll be honest, I'm just happy to move forward and look in the rearview mirror and see mandates and masks in that rearview mirror. No more. Christensen says the last 2 years have been a roller coaster ride, and early restrictions meant that he had to rethink his entire business model. He says aside from masking, which went away this week, there haven't been many mandates in the last few months, and business has been good. The future is impossible to predict. It does seem like this new plan didn't mention mandates. It didn't mention other things like that, so I'm hoping we can put all that in the past, that maybe the powers that be have learned their lessons or learned what works and what doesn't work, and we can move forward with what will work for us so that it's not going to detrimentally affect
protect restaurants or other businesses, their patrons and their staff.
The governor's SMARTER plan stands for shots, masks, awareness, readiness, testing, education, and RX treatments. He says the state is moving from a crisis mindset and a reactive model to a more prepared and focused approach.
We asked the governor's team if we could see restrictions again, that limited capacity and close down certain businesses. They say that was almost 2 years ago and hope that they don't have to ever go back there.
I think that the probability to see any restrictions moving forward is highly unlikely because, again, we now have the tools. They're readily available.
San Diego County Supervisor's Chair Nathan Fletcher supports the governor's plan, which also calls for continued collaboration with local governments. Fletcher says it's time to get back to normal, but still recognize that COVID is still out there.
We'll continue to make sure folks have access to vaccines and boosters and work with our healthcare systems. But again, all of that is more in a state of endemic, a state of preparing for things we prepare for, just like we prepare for the flu. And just like we prepare for other respiratory viruses.
Christensen knows what the virus can do. He's had it twice himself. He does say there are some silver linings from COVID, like how San Diego businesses were allowed to extend operations onto the sidewalk and streets.
San Diego's probably one of the best places in all of the United States to have al fresco and outside dining, so I think that was a great move. It helped us significantly when we were shut down on the inside, but moving forward, that's definitely a silver lining that will allow us to hopefully make up some of that lost revenue that occurred when the pandemic had its stranglehold on us.
While universal masking is gone in California, depending on what lies ahead, people could be asked to wear them again. The governor says science and equity will drive his endemic plan. Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
Schools are among the few places mask mandates still stand across California. Today in Poway, some students and parents protested the mandate at Twin Peaks Middle School. The Poway Unified School District recently sent families a letter asking them to tell their kids to keep their face coverings on in class. Parents at this morning's rally told our media partner 10 News that they don't think the mandate makes sense.
And the children, they can go into any other part of the community without a mask on, but then the second they want to enter a classroom, they are asked to put a mask back on. It doesn't make sense.
I have a daughter who has special needs. She has a speech delay. She's been doing speech with a mask on for 2 years. How do you learn how to speak when you can't see how the words are formed? And so we need her mask to be taken off.
A local restaurant, Flippin' Pizza, is even offering a free slice to any student who defies the mask mandate. Poway Unified School District issued a statement saying it recognizes the frustration around mask mandates, but the district is still required to follow state and county public health orders, adding it is not a school or district decision. More good news, bad news when it comes to COVID cases. They're down nationwide, but now there are new worries as the stealth Omicron variant spreads. Reporter Britt Conway breaks down what officials know now and how severe it could be.
They're going way down.
Nationwide, new COVID-19 cases, overall hospitalizations and deaths all going down. But
we want to pull back and say we're done. Well, the virus may not be done with us.
Case in point, BA2, a subvariant of Omicron. It appears to be about 30% to 50% more contagious than Omicron, and it's been detected in 74 countries and 47 U.S. states. The World Health Organization says the prevalence of BA2 appears to be increasing, both in countries experiencing a decline in Omicron cases and in countries that are in the growing phase of the wave.
It is showing some kind of level of transmission advantage.
Japanese researchers say this subvariant needs to be more closely monitored. Based on lab experiments yet to be peer-reviewed, they say it spreads faster and might cause more severe disease than Omicron. But severity in the real world is a different story. BA2 has gained a foothold in South Africa and the UK, and hospitalizations continue to decline. But in Denmark, where it's also the leading cause of infections, the WHO says hospitalizations and deaths are rising. The good news, we have the tools to fight the spread.
The things that we're doing to really protect ourselves, the vaccination, the other protective measures, are beating back the worst effects of Omicron.
But you have to be prepared to re-mitigate again if you see a rebound coming up.
I'm Britt Conway reporting.
Mayor Todd Gloria launched his new Build Better SD initiative today. The plan calls for the creation of a citywide fund for better, more equitable infrastructure delivery. That's everything from sidewalk and street improvements to new parks and libraries.
Build Better SD will combine these 43 community pots of money into one citywide pot, allowing us to prioritize projects that are needed the most and get them done faster.
Gloria, who made this promise in a State of the City address, says the time is now to do away with old, inequitable planning policies that restrict incoming public infrastructure fees to a single community. The U.S. Supreme Court plans to take a closer look at a Trump-era border policy known as Remain in Mexico. Lawyers for Texas and Missouri are asking the justices to stop the Biden administration's attempt to end the Trump-era policy. It allows officials to send non-Mexican migrants to Mexico to await their immigration court hearings. The Department of Homeland Security ended the policy last year, but a federal judge in Texas ordered the program's revival. The Supreme Court is set to hear arguments in the case in April. Emotional moments today in the sentencing of police officer Kim Potter. She's a Minnesota policewoman who mistook her gun for a taser and killed Dante Wright, a young black man, during a traffic stop. More now from reporter Chris Wynn.
In Minnesota, sentencing day in the case of former Brooklyn Center police officer Kimberly Potter.
It is the sentence and judgment of this court that you shall be committed to the custody of the Commissioner of Corrections for a period of 24 months.
The defendant was found guilty in December of 2 counts of manslaughter. Potter, a 26-year police veteran, testified that she mistook her gun for her taser when she fatally shot Dante Wright, a 20-year-old black man, during a traffic stop last spring.
A police officer who was supposed to serve and protect took so much away from us. She took our baby boy with a single gunshot through his heart. She shattered mine.
During the hearing, Potter addressed Wright's family, asking for forgiveness.
I pray for Dante and all of you many, many times a day.
Wright's family previously asked the judge to hand down the maximum sentence, which he opted not to do, citing the uniqueness of the case.
She never intended to hurt anyone. Her conduct cries out for a sentence significantly below the guidelines.
Under Minnesota law, Potter is required to serve 2/3 of her sentence in prison. With good behavior, she'll be eligible for supervised release for the other third.
I walk out of this courthouse feeling like people are laughing at us because this lady got a slap on the wrist.
Chris Wynn, KPBS News.
MTS is making changes to its workforce as they have entered into a new agreement with Intercon Security. The company is responsible for training and hiring officers for MTS. Their training is specific to de-escalation tactics, anti-violence policing, first aid, and use of force. About 110 of the officers will be armed and 70 will not. MTS officials say they are pushing for more security presence on their lines, specifically making officers more visible and approachable.
If they have any issues or problems or concerns, they can approach us. So it's also that, and also that if anybody's on the system and thinking about doing something wrong, we'll be there, we'll be visible to hopefully deter that behavior.
Officers will be patrolling bus routes, trolley lines, and more than 60 stations across the county.
I'm Judy Woodruff. Tonight on the NewsHour, why the U.S. is still seeking to make diplomatic inroads as Russia inflames tensions with Ukraine. Coming up at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
The ban on avocados from Mexico is over. The U.S. government lifted a ban on inspections today, making way for the imports of the fruit to resume. The decision comes just as economists were warning about avocado prices increasing in the coming days. Joseph Rossi, the owner of Rossi Ranch in Fallbrook, says local farmers were excited about the potential new business the ban would bring.
And it's a tough business being a farmer here in Southern California, so I was happy for them. But in the meantime, thinking it was going to be a short-term thing just because too much money involved for this to go too long into the future.
In order to lift the ban, Mexico and the United States agreed to enact measures that ensure the safety of agricultural inspectors.
Happy Friday, everyone, and thanks for tuning in to KPBS News. I'm Marvin Gomez taking a quick look at our weather here in San Diego County. Low clouds are coming back, a stronger onshore flow bringing the marine layer into Southern California, and that means that we're going to gradually be cooling down as we head into the weekend and early next week. And we got some big changes happening early next week as well, with the possibility for a couple of showers and even the chance for a few thunderstorms. Now, here's a quick look at our county for tonight. It's looking very quiet, uneventful weather. Escondido, 36 degrees, your low temperature. In Mount Laguna, we're going to be cooling down to 39. San Diego, we're in the upper 40s. And as we head into our Saturday, it's very quiet across the southwest, but it's going to be this area of low pressure that's going to be helping drag some of that flow out of the Pacific into coastal California. So for tomorrow afternoon, expect a couple of clouds, especially during the morning hours. San Diego, 68 degrees there for our afternoon. Ramona, you're climbing up into the mid-70s. Borrego Springs near 78 degrees. There's a cold front that's going to be pushing south across California on Sunday, and then heading into Monday, it is going to be noticeably cooler for the entire region, not just in Southern California, but also for most of the Southwest. Here's a quick look at our forecast along the coast. We're going from the upper 60s on Saturday to the low 60s Monday, stretching into Tuesday. There is the possibility near the coast on Tuesday, and also across inland areas, there is the potential for a few showers. Notice our high 57 on Tuesday as opposed to 76 degrees for tomorrow afternoon. Over the mountains, it is nice, it is quiet, turns very windy into Monday, and then by Tuesday, there is the potential for not just wind, but also a few snow showers over the higher terrain. In the deserts, not a lot happening in the upcoming days. We're staying close to 80 degrees for Sunday afternoon, and then we're getting into the mid-60s heading into Tuesday. Breezy conditions as we approach the middle of the work week. I'm Marvin Gomez with your KPBS forecast.
If you're planning to buy a new house and don't already have a low-interest mortgage, you're quickly running out of luck. Mortgage rates have risen again. The average 30-year fixed mortgage is now 3.92%. That's up from last week's 3.69% and the highest since the summer of 2019. According to Freddie Mac, the rate jump is due to inflation and stronger than expected consumer spending. SeaWorld is trying to make moves to expand its brand and compete with larger theme parks. SDSU's Mira Kopik tells us why one of those moves fell through this week in the Friday Business Report.
SeaWorld is coming out of, as any theme park has over the last couple of years, the horrible pandemic where most of these theme parks were completely shut down in 2020. And this would have been a play by SeaWorld to aggressively kind of step up and be right the tier below the Disneys and the Universal Studios. Cedar Fair rejected the bid this week, and so SeaWorld doesn't see an opportunity unless they really do a hostile takeover. The one positive thing for both firms, it's unlocked some of the share value, and Cedar Point went from less than, in their low 50s to closing today at $58 a share. SeaWorld was in the low 60s, and today it closes $68 a share. So what it shows is that there is going to be appetite going forward for theme park stocks, and I think SeaWorld isn't finished looking for ways to grow, not just organically, but through acquisition.
Many visitors to Disneyland and Disney World did not mask their feelings now that face coverings are optional for vaccinated guests. Some were pleased to hear the news, while others said they'll still take precautions and leave theirs on.
And it is a hassle managing the masks with the kids, so all the indoor rides will now be much more fun.
Even though we're fully vaccinated, but still, I still feel like we need to take that extra protection, especially with the kids.
Disney expects unvaccinated guests to continue to wear masks. It's also requiring all guests ages 2 and up to wear masks when in enclosed transportation vehicles, including Disney, buses, the monorail, and Skyliner. The San Diego History Center is home to the Baynard Photo Collection, one of the largest photographic archives of Black life west of the Mississippi. KPBS race and equity reporter Christina Kim examines slices of Black life in San Diego's Logan Heights neighborhood from the Great Depression to the 1980s.
If you drive by the intersection of Imperial Avenue and 27th, chances are you'll notice the bright blue and terracotta party store selling piñatas. But what you might not know is the significance of this building to San Diego's Black history. Way before it was a party store, this is where the Baynard Photo Studio operated for over 40 years. Open from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m., no appointment necessary.
Norman Baynard was a Black photographer who had a studio in the Logan Heights area, and he photographed Black San Diego life for decades.
That's Shelby Gordon, a native San Diegan and marketing manager for the San Diego History Center, which is home to the nearly 30,000 images that Norman Baynard took from the early 1930s up until the mid-1980s. Baynard migrated to San Diego from Michigan in the early 1920s. He played banjo at a nightclub, did some garden work in Mission Hills, but ultimately he found his calling, photography. His son, Arnold, who donated the photo collection and is pictured here as a child, recalled in an interview for the History Center's podcast that his dad was actually colorblind.
Oh, yeah, they say one of the things that made him the best black and white photographer is his color blindness. He was self-taught, for one. He learned it all through experiment and trial and error, and from that, it just took off from there.
Over time, Baynard established himself as the premier photographer of San Diego's Black community.
What he did, whether intentionally or not, was capture the 3D-ness of Black San Diego. The faces, the emotion, the victories, the struggle, the dimension, the broad range of colors and sectors and classes.
From childhood birthday parties like Jeanette Bowser's 6th birthday party in 1950 with all her friends, to Christmas celebrations, to baptisms like this one in 1967, hosted by the 35th Seventh-day Adventist Church. For Gordon, some of the photos are of long-forgotten faces, like her old babysitter's boyfriend, Chicken.
This is a photo of a wedding. And this is Chicken.
No way. So this is a personal archive for you.
In many ways, I have found so many snapshots of myself.
As a Black woman, Gordon sees her San Diego reflected back to her, remembered and preserved.
History is personal. It's about individuals.
Baynard's photos are a testament to the fact that history is told through the lives of powerful people, but made by everyday people. Snapshots of ordinary Black lives, lived and enjoyed despite the struggles.
Their lives are important, their stories are important, their history is important. And what Mr. Baynard did was he documented that on film.
Of the thousands of photographs at the center, 500 have been made available online. And thanks to a community-wide effort in 2011, hundreds of people and places captured in the photographs were identified. People like Essie Smart, who won, quote, Colored Woman of the Year in 1957, an award presented by the local Black paper, The Lighthouse. And places that don't exist anymore, like RBG House of Music, which was located on Market Street right across from what's now Mount Hope Community Garden. These photos help connect the past with the present, something which Gordon says is more vital than ever today, when the teaching of Black history is being challenged in schools across the country.
It establishes a bridge. We are still having some of these struggles, and the hope and the desperation and the intention and the commitment that you may have seen in the 50s, 60s, and 70s.
And that brings up another big question that Gordon and the History Center are thinking about. The Baynard collection ends in the 1980s. So who's building the archive of Black life in San Diego today? Gordon says she's not worried.
I think that is the key for archiving Black history, is one, reaching into the communities for them to tell, again, their personal story. What made the difference for them? Who made the difference for them? What was the date? What was the event? What was the experience that was crucial in the life of a Black San Diegan?
They are already collaborating with the Smithsonian's National Museum of African American History and Culture to document and preserve the Black Lives Matter movement. And more importantly, she's counting on Black San Diegans to contribute their photos and complete the archive.
Tell us your story. Submit your leader. Tell us what our timeline is missing.
Because one day, today will be history, and the future will want to know the places and people that made San Diego what it is today. Cristina Kim, KPBS News.
The Voodoo Lily is raising a stink at the San Diego Botanic Garden in Encinitas. It belongs to the same plant family as the corpse flower, which bloomed last November. The lily emits a similar rotting scent as it blooms to attract the insects that pollinate it, but it's not as overpowering as its cousin.
Corpse flower, when it's in that 2 days that it's smelling, it fills up the whole room. You sort of walk into the room, it's like a punch in the face. This one's a more subtle kind of putrescence, let's call it. So you definitely smell it when you get close.
The average bloom only lasts 3 to 4 days, but it can take up to 4 years for the plant to flower. The Botanic Garden has a handful of the plants, so more blooms could soon be on the way. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thank you for joining us, and have a great evening.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. By viewers like you. Thank you.